Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. I started this tech company right out of college with a few friends. We were just a bunch of nerdy guys with big dreams and even bigger ideas. Somehow, through lots of long days and even longer nights, we managed to turn our garage project into a booming business. Within 5 years, we had over 200 employees and were raking in millions in revenue. My buddies and I still owned the majority share in the company, but we brought on some seasoned professionals to handle the day-to-day operations. After all, we were engineers at heart, not MBAs. One of the new big shot hires was Karen, brought on as a regional manager to oversee our largest office. She had an impressive resume and seemed qualified on paper. In person, though, that was another story. Karen walked into the office like she owned the place, barking orders and making declarative statements about all the changes she planned to implement. Clearly, she hadn't bothered doing any research on our company culture. Collaboration and humility were key for us, not top-down dictatorship. Unfortunately, I didn't have much interaction with Karen at first. I was busy traveling to meet with clients and investors, so I left it up to HR to get her settled in. Big mistake. A few months later, I returned to our corporate headquarters. It was the first time in a while that my buddies and I were all in the same building again. For old time's sake, we decided to walk the floor and say hi to the staff. We were chatting with some engineers when I noticed Karen storming towards us, flanked by two security guards. She had a deep scowl on her face. "You three," she bellowed. "Just what do you think you're doing here? This area is for employees only." My friends glanced around awkwardly. "We are employees," explained Jay, our creative director. "We've worked here for years." Karen let out a condescending laugh. "You honestly expect me to believe that? I know everyone in this office and I've never seen you clowns before." Before we could explain further, she got right up in my face. "Listen, I don't know what kind of prank you college punks are trying to pull, but I don't find it amusing. This is a place of business, not your frat house basement." I stood there in shock, unable to process that this woman had no clue who we were. "Let me see some ID right now," demanded Karen, snapping her fingers. The security guards nodded, ready to forcibly remove us if need be. "Ma'am, I think there's been a misunderstanding," I said slowly. "I'm Will Howard, founder and CEO of this company. These are my partners, Jay and Amit. We don't usually carry around employee badges." Karen let out a sarcastic laugh. "Wow, pulling the old CEO card, huh? That's so creative. Now stop wasting my time." She turned to the guards. "Escort these clowns out and revoke their building access cards immediately." I tried pleading with her again, but Karen refused to listen. Before I knew it, the security guards were dragging us towards the exit. I looked around desperately, hoping some of our veteran staff would intervene. Finally, I spotted Mary from HR walking briskly towards us. "What is going on here?" she demanded. The guards quickly explained that Karen had ordered them to remove us from the premises. Mary's eyes widened in shock. "That's the CEO and his partners you're hauling away. Let them go this instant." The guards released their grip immediately, apologizing profusely. Karen, however, was unconvinced. "I don't believe those are who they claim to be. I won't have trespassers wandering around unsupervised." Sensing Mary's growing frustration, I stepped in. "It's quite all right, Mary. Let's go to my office and sort this misunderstanding out." As we walked away, I heard Karen yell out, "Don't think this is over, you hooligans! I'll find out who you really are and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law for trespassing on company property." Mary shook her head in disbelief. "I am so incredibly sorry about this, Will. She clearly failed to do any research on our company's leadership team before starting. I take full responsibility for this oversight." I shrugged. "Don't worry about it. Let's just get this straightened out quickly so we can all move on." We invited Karen up to my office, where portraits of our founding team hung prominently on the wall. She let out an audible gasp, her cheeks flushing a deep scarlet. I sat her down and explained who we were and our relationship to the company. Karen stammered through an apology, claiming she was just trying to protect our business from intruders. I'll admit, a small part of me wanted to flat out fire her for her blatant arrogance and lack of due diligence. But I decided to give her another chance, with the caveat that this could not happen again. Karen eagerly agreed and said it would not. Unfortunately, that truce did not last long. Over the next few weeks, I started hearing rumors of Karen targeting other longtime employees. claiming she didn't recognize them and threatening to have their access revoked. She began instituting ridiculous, out-of-touch policies that hurt morale. Turnover spiked higher than ever before. The final straw came when she attempted to organize an emergency board meeting to oust me as CEO. She falsely claimed I was mismanaging finances and proposed that I be removed immediately. Luckily, I caught wind of this and assembled the board members myself for an emergency meeting. At first, they didn't believe me about Karen's coup attempt, but I presented internal communications and statements from employees that verified the plot against me. The board was outraged. Not only had Karen attempted to undermine me, but she had damaged employee trust and tanked retention rates. Her reckless leadership was hurting our business. A week later, I held a company-wide video conference announcing that Karen had been terminated effective immediately. I reiterated my commitment to our employees and said that our culture would be getting back on track. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many employees thanking me via email for ousting Karen. They felt heard and respected again. It took some time to undo the damage she had caused, but eventually, faith in our leadership was restored. And I made sure to do my due diligence, researching all managerial candidates from that point forward. No more surprise Karens allowed. The ironic thing, Karen tried suing us for wrongful termination, insisting she didn't know I was the real CEO. The judge laughed her straight out of the courtroom. Talk about entitled. But at least now our company is Karen-free and thriving once again. The next one is a pro-revenge story. This is something that happened to my grandfather. To understand him, he was a quality control engineer for a pretty major manufacturing firm, and he was a master of aggressively renegotiating deals. He was and is a strict taskmaster, not entitled or unreasonable, but if something went wrong, there would be hell to pay. So he decided that he wanted to renovate his home, take the moderately big 2-story house, and add 2 new bedrooms and a master bath. He brings in a contractor and gets a quote. Says as part of the work, they'll need to completely refinish the front too. Grandfather agrees and they start work. It's a serious effort. Winds up carving open the whole front of the house and all sorts of madness. Things go well enough at first. The destruction goes smoothly. Then they start construction. At first, things were just slow going. Sluggish delivery from sources, slow permits from the city, you get the idea. Then things get silly. It took them over 3 months to start and finish the plumbing, 4 months for the insulation. My grandfather is paying for a lot of time and not a lot of work done. He's irritated about this speed, but besides making some noise, there's not really much to be done about it. Bit by bit, the house starts to come together. Then, as they're putting on the weatherproofing, an inspector comes in and puts a stop to the whole affair. The contractor had improperly filed the plans. Now, my grandfather is pretty furious by this point, but he keeps a cool enough head, starts asking what's going to be done about it with the contractor. The thinking was that they redraft the plans and send them out for reapproval. The contractor says he'll do it. 5 months go by. The house is just sitting there, fancy new framework still hanging in the breeze. Then all of a sudden the contractor says he's pulling out. He had no idea the hell he'd unleashed. My grandfather didn't just jump straight to suing him. Oh no, sir. He took his time before even getting a lawyer. He did his homework. He tracked down every single client that this guy had had for the last 3 years and did a deep dive on the books to figure out what the hell happened. Turns out that this wasn't an isolated incident, just the most egregious. As it happens, this contractor had a penchant for screwing people over, turning minor Reno jobs into complete dumpster fires. His modus operandi was to file the changes with the city, make a private second set of plans, start making things based on the second set, intentionally let the city halt the construction, then restart the project on a third draft. After talking to some of the other customers, he and 8 of the other victims collectively filed charges against him. They annihilated this guy. They took every cent he had, which wasn't that much, his scheme hadn't actually done him that much good, liquidated his company, sent him to something like 15 years in prison for fraud, and got the state to help recoup expenses. 2 months later, a new contracting company blitzed my grandfather's renovations, and he was able to drink in his master suite to toast his revenge. The next one is a petty revenge story. This is the story of a casino Karen. Before we begin, a few things to know. The house always wins. Duh. Casino Karens are slightly different than regular Karens. 1. They must win immediately upon sitting down at a slot machine and get very angry when they do not. And 2, if you are winning and they are not, casino Karens are even more unhappy. So last night, late in the evening at a nearby casino, I was meandering my way back to my hotel room after breaking even for the night. Yay. I stopped at a penny slot machine I like, and decided to throw a few bucks in and play the minimum of 25 cents per spin just for craps and giggles. Shortly after sitting down, Casino Karen plops down at a slot machine 2 over from me, which I know is generally not a great machine, never see anyone really win on it, and it is not played much as a result, and immediately lights up a cigarette while her boyfriend stands there to watch her. After a few spins at $1.25 a spin, she immediately starts complaining, and her boyfriend joins her saying, "These machines are rigged. This is awful." I see why the casino regulars play the minimum. Now, normally I am happy to see others winning because it makes the vibe more fun, but Karens? Nah, I hope they lose. So it just so happens that just about the time Karen starts complaining, I get in a bonus. This pisses off Karen and her boyfriend, and I hear them make a snide comment about how, of course, I am in the bonus and only playing 25 cents. Idiot. You know I can hear you, right? Karen then gets in the bonus on her machine too, and gets 40 free spins and only wins about $11, which is about what I got on my bonus playing 25 cents to her $1.25. You would have thought the world had stopped. The complaining ramped up about 10 more notches, and they kept idioting about 40 free spins and barely $10. So karmic fates shined down, and my machine decided to bonus several more times in very quick succession. Cue even more complaints. I try to be nice and tell them that I played it earlier at $1.25 a spin and couldn't get a bonus to save my life. And isn't that how it goes? I get in the bonus at minimum bet. Silence from Karen and boyfriend. Okay, that's how it is going to go. Was already irritated at the snide remark. Casino Karen proceeds to continue her non-stop complaining. Normal people just get up off a bad machine. And I could tell she was eyeing my machine up and would jump at the chance to get on it if I left. Been gambling a long time. I know when someone wants my machine. Despite being tired, part 1 of Petty Revenge is I decide to keep playing just to annoy her and manage to hit a $50 bonus, which you can imagine irritated her as it would have been $250 if I was playing $1.25. Like her. About 3 Karen cigarettes later she finally leaves, but only goes about 7. 8 machines down. I can tell her boyfriend keeps looking my way to see if I have left. Part 2 of Petty Revenge is I pull out a ticket I haven't cashed in yet from another machine that has about $250 in slot credits on it, and I insert it into my machine. This way, it looks like I won a really big bonus if they walk by to see how I'm doing and how many credits are on my machine. Of course, about 15 minutes later they stroll by, and I can tell they are super annoyed to see I have over $350 in credits on the machine. Ha 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 ha. Once it was clear they were gone for good, I cashed out and went to bed. The next one is a malicious compliance story. So I remembered a story of malicious compliance, as recounted to me by a good friend of mine. My friend is a hairdresser by trade and works at a very upscale salon. I go to her myself and can attest to her being amazing. Anyway, this salon had one customer who had been passed around from hairdresser to hairdresser, bullying every single one she saw. This woman was an absolute holy terror. She made 3 separate hairdressers cry. The only reason she was still a client of the salon was that her mom was friends with the owner. She was a relatively young gal, maybe in her mid-20s, with very long bottle blonde hair, past her waist, that she insisted to everyone who wasn't her hairdresser was her natural color. It was very much not. She went to the salon religiously so no one would ever find out her secret shame. She blamed her hairdresser for all her hair problems, many of which were the results of heavy bleaching and how much heat she used on her hair and her refusal to follow care instructions, and was never satisfied with anything. So everything shuts down in our state, and she screams at my friend to come do her hair for her because she can't have her boyfriend finding out she's not a natural blonde. Anyway, my friend refuses, and despite Karen's threats, she knows that the salon owner knows she's too damn good at her job and has too loyal a customer base to fire her, so she thinks no more of it until a few months later when the salon reopens. And lo and behold, who should appear in the appointment book but Karen? So the day arrives, and Karen shows up with her hair dyed jet black, and not very well dyed either. My friend is shocked because Karen's always made such a big deal about being a blonde, and how even though she gets her hair bleached, she really is a natural blonde and just enhancing her color a little. My friend asks Karen what they were doing that day, and Karen demands to be made blonde again. My friend is like, okay, that's going to be a process, because this woman has used black box dye, which is really hard to get out. For those of you who don't know, getting dyed dark hair to blonde is usually something done in stages, so the hair has a chance to recover a bit between bleaching sessions to avoid breakage. Karen is like, no, I am going to be blonde when I leave here today, or I am telling your boss that you see clients at home sometimes and getting you fired. My friend sometimes does friends' hair at home for a lower price because she's a sweetheart, which her boss is fine with. And it's your fault I had to dye my hair this color because my boyfriend would have seen my roots if I hadn't done something. My friend is tired of Karen's BS at this point, but it's a slow day, and she has time. She explains to Karen that if she takes her blonde all in one go, her hair will be fried, and she'll likely end up having to lose a lot of length. Karen scoffs and rolls her eyes and is like, that's never happened before, and my hair's so healthy I'm sure it will be fine if you don't screw it up. Friend recommends at least using Olaplex, a product that helps prevent damage. Karen says she thinks it's a scam to overcharge customers and won't pay for it. Cue malicious compliance. Friend is like, okay, but makes several coworkers be witnesses that this is what Karen is asking for after friend explained the risks. Friend, meanwhile, has formulated a fiendish scheme. After that, friend goes through the whole process of bleaching Karen's hair. She has to do it like 4 times or something, and she checks with Karen after each one that she's absolutely sure she has to be all the way back to champagne blonde by the end of the day, and recommends stopping at some of the nice auburn or strawberry blonde shades in between for now, but Karen insists. Her boyfriend hates her hair anything but her natural blonde. My friend knows she will refuse because when has a Karen ever decided at the 11th hour to be reasonable? With each bleaching, there's more breakage, and Karen's hair feels worse. My friend knows Karen's hair won't survive this, but Karen absolutely refuses to let her stop. Eventually, at long last, my friend manages to get Karen's hair to the required level, and so she starts to rinse Karen's hair. It starts breaking off in her hand. The length of her hair is melted, fried, destroyed. My friend gets the bleach out and immediately conditions the ever-loving out of it while explaining to Karen that exactly what my friend said would happen has happened. Karen says she must be exaggerating and insists it's fine. Friend wraps what's left of Karen's hair in a towel and takes her back over to her station where she shows Karen the problem. Everything past a little beyond chin length is pretty much gone. Karen shrieks and accuses my friend of everything under the sun. Incompetence, operating without a license, she most definitely has her license, a personal vendetta, etc., etc. My friend eventually calms her down and tells her she'll do her best to cut it so it looks decent for free. She even has the perfect cut in mind. It'll suit Karen perfectly. My friend gives Karen the sharpest, most beautifully cut angled bob you've ever seen. I've seen it thanks to my friend showing me Karen's Insta, that despite the incredible precision and skill showcased, is unequivocally and perfectly the Karen. Blown out and styled to "Can I speak to the manager?" Perfection. Karen starts crying because the cut makes her look 40. She wants to speak to the manager. My friend gets the manager and Karen throws a fit, threatening to sue, and how dare they, and how his employee did this to mock her, and so on and so forth, while my friend stands there looking completely innocent. The boss then asks friend her side of the story, and the other hairdressers back her up and that the cut is just her trying to make the best of what's left of her hair. Even the boss by now is sick of Karen's BS, and Karen is forced to pay the huge sum of money owed for how much time was spent bleaching her hair, much of which is now gone, and leaves swearing never to come back. Her boyfriend, a cop, calls up later and threatens to assault my friend for doing that to Karen's hair against his wishes. And my friend tells him if he tries anything, she's going to tell his superiors and every news agency in the city. Nothing further happens, but he eventually dumps Karen because he doesn't like girls with short hair. The next one is an entitled people story. My 31F brother, 25M, has always been an entitled brat. He has lived in my house, my mom and I bought and renovated it, for 5 years now. He didn't start contributing to the household bills until about 2 years ago, and he makes sure to throw that in mine and my mom's faces every month as if it's some big favor. He has always complained about living here and how miserable he is because he's treated so poorly. He's treated like a prince by my mom. And the house is such a mess. His room used to be our studio space where my mom and I kept our workspaces and supplies. I'm a designer and my mom is an artist. When he moved in, we turned our living room into a makeshift office for ourselves, so our supplies are kept on various shelving units in our living space. My brother has always complained about how cluttered and dirty the house is and how he hates living here, blah blah. I've told him repeatedly that if he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to live here. He said I should accommodate him instead because he's family and families should respect each other. It's a small house and we were doing our best with what little space we have, but he says it's embarrassing that we don't even have a space for a couch and TV. We used to until he moved in. 2 months ago, he announced that he is being forced to move in with his girlfriend because he can't live like this anymore. Because my mother and I are just so awful for asking him to help with the bills and have the audacity to have our workspaces in the living room. Since he informed us of this, he hasn't packed a single box, and he refuses to give me any kind of time frame. But I overheard him telling his dad he expects to move out in September. Today I came home to a bunch of stuff, including kitchen items like sodas and snacks, stacked in my room and on my work desk, which had my laptop and my design drawings on the tabletop. I was confused and annoyed because I was afraid they had been crushed. I asked my mom if she did that. She told me it was my brother. I went to him to ask why the hell he did that and that I didn't appreciate him moving my stuff and potentially ruining my work. He went off on me, saying he made an executive decision to finally clean up. I laughed because he has his bathroom and the largest bedroom, and they're both filthy. He decided my mom's and my things needed to be allocated to our spaces and kept out of the communal spaces, the kitchen and dining area. His logic was since I'm the only one who consumes certain sodas and snacks, they need to be kept in my room. None of his foods or drinks were taken out of the kitchen. Anything that he didn't deem worthy of being in the communal spaces, he just tossed into a pile on mine and my mother's desks and in our rooms. Mind you, his shoes, moving boxes, and bags are all over the hallway. My mom and I always have to step over his stuff when we walk by his room, and we don't move anything. I told him he needs to respect our things and our space. He said it's not for me to dictate. I said yes it is, it's my house. But he wouldn't hear of it. He screamed at me, saying I had to thank him for cleaning my mess, and that I better apologize for being so ungrateful. I reminded him he's moving out. So why would he be so bothered about how my house looks? I told him I can't organize anything until he moves out, and he lost his mind, saying, "How freaking dare you? I guess you can't wait for me to leave." I rolled my eyes and told him that not everything I say and do is a personal attack on him. He was screaming at me, saying that my power trip is my way of abusing him. I got fed up by that point and walked away to avoid losing my cool. It takes a very deluded person to make demands and set rules that never seem to apply to him in someone else's home. The entitlement. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.